Dom, are these canaries in the coal mine? Are they the ones leading us down, or are they kind of catching up to this sell-off? Do you think?
I mean, it's chicken and egg at this point right now, right? What you can say about stocks like Tesla and Virgin Galactic and all of these other momentum names beyond Meat, anybody else, is that they were created because of investor optimism and perhaps to a somewhat degree of euphoria, I guess is the way to put it in there. And when you do have those kinds of pullbacks happen, the ones that have gone up the furthest are oftentimes the ones that lead to the downside. It's not just those names, by the way. To a much milder degree, but more important degree, it's names like Amazon and Microsoft and others like that as well. Momentum, by the way, it's been indiscriminate in the marketplace. There have been relative outperformers, but if you look across the board, the best companies within all sectors have all been taking hits on this whole thing. Even ETFs that track momentum specifically versus low volatility or low beta have all gone down between 5 to 8% in this sell-off. So again, it is pretty broad-based, and that's the takeaway from this whole thing.
What do you read into these moves, Brian?
Well, there's a old adage: you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Right.
And unfortunately, last year was a year of momentum, and we kind of forgot that momentum can swing in the other direction like it did in the fourth quarter of 2018. It's so funny because investors have short-term memories when things are bad, long-term memories when things are bad, and short-term memories when things are good. And so I think specifically with Tesla, I remember last year we had a lot of fundamental issues with Tesla, and Dom brought up a great point. So investors feel pretty confident that momentum is working, so let's go buy Tesla. I mean, it may be not that simple, but it is that simple.
But let me put it differently, which is to say, especially if there are younger investors, for example, because it's amazing, these Instagram accounts and TikTok to some extent, younger people who own Tesla or own Virgin Galactic and feel like they know more about the company than you do and they understand it better than you do, and they've been right. What do you do if you're them now?
Well, Mr. Santelli said it best. I mean, we're in a dangerous world right now, and we're controlled by social media. And oh, by the way, that's part of the reason why the market's been going down, because this lack of information or the bullet point analysis. So, experience, perspective, longer term works. Be very careful. I've learned one thing through doing this almost 30 years. When you think you've got everything figured out, sell. Right? Because you're probably wrong. When you think you're the dumbest person in the world, buy, because you're actually too critical on yourself. So I'd be really careful of someone that is just doing this all the time, trying to figure out a stock.
Kelly, to that point, it's interesting you bring that up, because one of the things that we haven't focused as much on, and we don't do it because it's not crazy large in the market, but cryptocurrencies. The one thing we haven't talked about right now is
weed stocks. But
Bitcoin has fallen below that 9,000 level, so it's pulled back pretty big in terms of momentum. So if you talk about momentum stocks, it's also the upside moves in other asset classes that are being sold up as well. It has really become about traditional havens like treasuries and gold versus just stocks or risk assets.
So I guess my point, to put a button on this conversation then, is, Brian, do you think this sell-off is the kind of thing that's needed to reset the market, get some of the froth out of these high-flying stocks? And by the way, the market itself, you could argue, was quote unquote overdue for a correction, was it not?
We were going to have a correction. The market was up almost 30% last year. Okay, so I'll quote another really smart guy, Paul. He wrote this little book called The Corinthians in the Bible. He said, "Be on your guard, stand firm in your faith, and be courageous. Be strong." Okay, be strong. And I know a lot of brokers around the world are receiving client calls, and they're nervous, okay? Don't be nervous. You are investing for the right reasons, and you have a great investment advisor and a great financial advisor in a process. Don't scrap your process just because of fear today. Stick with your discipline. And remember, equities in the United States, we continue to believe, are the most stable asset in the world. And from a high-quality standpoint, investors are going to want quality. That's why bonds actually have dipped, because investors are coming back and buying our income as well.
All right. Dom, you want to respond with any biblical quotes of your own here?
I'm going to keep Corinthians and Ephesians and everything else in my back pocket for the next time.
Thank you, guys.